the CEO at Chip. Welcome to our very modest offices here in Shoreditch. I hope you all found it okay coming down the alley. First of all, thank you so much, all of you, for coming. Really appreciate you giving up a little bit of your time to come into our open office. I've tried to chat to a number of you. More people coming in? Or?
Like three more.
Three more. We'll start with them. Tried to chat to a number of you upstairs. Seems like quite a few people are Chip investors and also Chip savers. I asked you if you wouldn't mind sort of putting your Chip saver hat on tonight. It's not. We didn't want to make it specifically an investor event. We're really interested in opening up our office, opening up our process to as many Chip savers as possible. We want to engage in conversation with you. We want to understand what you like about the product, what you'd love to see coming with the product. And really the objective for us is just to open up, show you a little bit, try and explain a little bit more about what we do on a day-to-day basis, and try and understand a little bit more about your experience with the app and the product on a day-to-day basis, and try and bring that together. I've got four, it's not about me, four great colleagues that are going to speak this evening. I believe at the end of each speech there's going to be an opportunity for questions and answers. And then when they've done, I'm more than happy to take any questions and kind of open the floor up. And I actually, if there is time, I have a number of questions for you guys I just kind of like to put to you. So hopefully if you have time for that, we can do that at the end. Alex, who's up first?
It's Alex.
Oh, yeah.
It is actually Alex. Alex Latham, our CMO.
Hello everyone. So I'm going to talk about how to grow startup to 100,000 customers. I'm being a bit flippant and tight, so I'm not actually going to talk about that, but I'm more going to talk about our marketing strategy, how we try and get customers, and then kind of going forwards, how we scale that up, and a lot more customers as well. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. This is me. I'm CMO at Chip, which is Chief Marketing Officer. So I'm responsible for all marketing and growth stuff at Chip. I've been at Chip quite a while. I was nearly 3 years coming up, which is pretty scary. This was actually the first meeting I ever had at Chip, and that was 3 years ago, so that was before we launched. I believe we were talking about onboarding, how to try and make the onboarding process as great as possible. See, Simon's got a little bit more hair there than he does now. But this genuinely was our greatest challenge back 3 years ago. Was
Two and a half years ago.
Was really brainstorming how are we going to get 1,000 users. And we had some very passionate conversation about how we're going to get to those 1,000 users. Whereas now I'm going to be talking to you today about our challenge, which is really getting to 1 million customers. So we're now past the 100,000 user mark, and our next major milestone is 1 million users. So as you can see, the team's grown quite a bit. Simon's hair is slightly different now as well. But I'm going to talk to you about that, and hopefully answer any questions you may have, and generally give you the strategy about how we and how also in fintech how kind of they grow the customer base. So how are some of the ways we've done it? So PR and press has been huge for us in the last couple of years. I think it was in end of 2016, just while we're having those chats about how we're going to get to 1,000 customers. There was a Friday night, and we had, I think, about 50 customers on the platform using the app. And I refreshed it at the end of the Friday, and suddenly jumped to like 70 of them. Oh, this is weird. And the BBC have written an article, and the article is titled "How to Save £40,000 by the Age of 40." And we had a one-line mention in the article, and that literally was, you can download some apps like Chip that can help you save automatically. And it was incredible. It was literally, if you think the conversation we were having in the office the day before was how to get to 1,000 users, in about 6 hours after going live, we had 2,000 customers. So that was a pretty great feeling and pretty amazing. It certainly answered the question how we're going to get to 1,000 customers. And then there's been some other big PR wins. We're lucky enough position to have been featured in every mainstream publication. So I won't get you to test me, but we have. We've been featured in Daily Mail, Sunday Times, Telegraph, Guardian, The Sun, pretty much every newspaper you can imagine, both on digital, online, and print as well, which has been huge. But similarly to the BBC day, where it completely changed the game in a matter of hours, we also had a fantastic meeting with Apple and the guys at the App Store in 2017, the end of 2017, where we discussed Chip and what we're trying to do and kind of where we plan on bringing the product. And they agreed to support us. And it was a very stressful day trying to get them all the information, all the visual assets. But then, it was a case where you wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning and suddenly your app's number 7 in the finance charts. And we got, I think, about 15,000 installs that day. So in a matter of a few hours, we shot up the charts just by being featured here on the front page of the App Store. And the feeling of Chip being above every other bank in the UK is pretty incredible. So that was certainly a big win for us back in the day. So PR has been some big wins in the past. But then there are also these things called viral loops. And I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with fintech in the space, but it's certainly been very impactful in fintech about how fintech products grow and how they kind of take that product-led approach to growth. A non-fintech example is Uber. So Uber a few years ago obviously launched their if you refer a friend you get £10. £10 off your first ride. That was huge then. Then if you look at the fintechs, what have Monzo and Revolut done? Revolut, they have their split bill feature, and that is very much a viral growth feature. So that is a feature that by definition, the utility and the benefit you get from Revolut is much better, far superior if your friends download it too. So that's a good example of a viral loop. Also, Monzo, you can send money to your friends with ease. It's a lot, I'm sure Monzo users will agree, it's a lot easier to send money to people on Monzo than it is to send money to your friends on Barclays, HSBC, or any other app. Very slick design to embed your phone book and then send out through that. But a really great example, and probably in our space one of the epitomes of viral loops is the Monzo Golden Ticket. So for those who don't know, when Monzo launched, they had a waiting queue. That queue was anywhere between 10,000 and 40,000 people. And existing users would get sent a notification in the app that they've unlocked a golden ticket, and they can give that golden ticket to a friend, and their friend will be able to jump the 40,000 person queue. And if you think about that as a marketing tactic, it's genius because it costs them nothing to do. It doesn't cost Monzo anything to do it, but it gets their users to get out there and give this golden ticket to one friend, and that friend then becomes a customer. So there are some great examples in there, but there's certainly some investment. So how do we kind of use that viral loops methodology? And for the chip savers out there, I'm sure you'll be aware of the interest referral system. So this was our go at viral loop, and very simply, chip starts on 0%, but you can get 1% bonus for every friend you recommend. And that has been one of our biggest growth drivers over the last couple of years, and it's really seen growth take off for a lot of people and a big cohort of users. It enables our customers to get a great return on their Chip account, but also it enables us to recruit more customers very quickly and efficiently, and it's not actually that expensive as it seems. We've blended out the numbers, and it's actually one of our cheapest customer acquisition channels, so it's very powerful. As I'm sure you're aware, it's not actually in the app at the moment, but we're bringing something back which is going to be even better and more exciting, but don't want to spoil too many surprises. So if you think about, we talked about kind of in the last couple of years, there's been press and PR, there's been the viral loops, but really the core of our marketing growth strategy comes down to this thing, and this is the NPS-driven growth. And I'll go on to the next slide. For those of you who don't know, NPS stands for Net Promoter Score, and it's a way for businesses to figure out how much do their customers like the product. So how do you figure out your NPS score? It's very simple. You ask your customers, doesn't matter what business you're in, could be literally any business. You ask your customers, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend Uber to a friend, or recommend the kebab shop over the road to a friend, or Chip a friend? Like, it really doesn't matter, but NPS is a metric that any business, any industry can use in order to really measure how much their customers like them. The way you figure it out is you take all the 0s to 6s, and their classes detractors. You discount 7 and 8s, because someone gives you 7 or 8, they're and you take the 9s and 10s, where people really creative and feel very passionate about it. And you find the ratio between the greens, the promoters, and the detractors, the people who do not feel passionate about it. So that's examples in other industries. So Tesla has the best NPS score of any major company, and that's 98, which is mind-boggling. It basically means everyone gave them a 10, and basically no one gave them a 0 to 6. If you look at most UK high street banks, they actually have a negative NPS score, which means most people give them a detractor, and it means they wouldn't recommend it. So most give them a negative one. In the space, Monzo has, I think they published their NPS 78, which is very, very strong. Ours is 69, which is not bad. It's pretty good, and really quite competitive in industry, and certainly is competitive in finance, very competitive. But when I'm talking about this NPS approach to growth, it's fundamentally the core of everything we do. So we have to approach NPS as the goal metric. It's really the key metric that we aim for. By really enhancing NPS, fundamentally, you're creating a user base of people that love your product and really become passionate and recommend it. And then once you enhance your NPS, you have a really high NPS, then you can implement the viral loops, because people feel so passionate about it, they love it, that they then want to refer their friends, they want to tell their friends about it, so you give them the viral loops, which is the mechanism to actually do that and tell their friends about it. And then there are some other ways which we accelerate it. We have an amazing content and community team, over here. Partnerships, we have a fantastic head of partnerships who's partnering with other brands who can recommend Chip to their audience in exchange for either a small fee, or in some examples in exchange for their users being able to save up for things and then spend it back with them. So, as an example, we're talking to Skyscanner and EasyJet at the moment about the possibility of them promoting Chip to their audience. Obviously for them it's fantastic, because that means that if EasyJet's recommended a savings tool, they're going to save up more and then probably going to spend that money back at EasyJet. So it's a great kind of retention tool for them. So that's something we're looking at. Ads, in the past we've actually spent very, very little money on ads. Fundamentally because we believe so strongly in this bit here, that's really what you've got to crack. If you spend too much money on ads too quickly, it's really killing yourself, to be honest. You can flood the market with ads, you can get loads of customers, but they don't love the product, so you're really not winning. And then, as was discussed earlier, PR still plays a big part of our strategy going forwards, especially around savings and offering a great savings account. And then overdraft will help you do that overdraft. So that's really what I want to talk about. That's kind of our broad strategy right there. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to grill me. Go for it.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Go on.
A million customers in the UK?
So good question. To be honest, expansion is on our far radar. We've always said that we want to nail Chip here and nail what we're really about, nail the business model here before we look to expand. Chip as a product and as a brand is very much focused on the people and selling the story and really communicating to people in a strong way. Like I said, our content and community teams are very, very busy. So that isn't necessarily easy to replicate in other countries and other cultures. So yes, it is on our radar to expand, but we want to be clever in how we do it and nail our business model and our marketing channels here.
I wasn't thinking you're expanding. It's quite a big goal for a UK market, gets with
When you consider, I think
all the other
startups, 2.3 million in the UK, and that's a current account where there's a lot of competition. Think about digital savings account, pretty much owning the market. There might be a couple of others out there doing similar-ish things, but from a savings perspective, I don't see unreasonable that we could have multiple millions of account holders in the UK.
No, I didn't think of that either. It's just
that's right.
it's just interesting. I don't know, what's your current user base?
It's over 100,000.
Just over 100,000. So you're 10 times in that. That's quite a lot of effort and work to get that together.
You up for it, guys? Yeah. Easy.
And do you have a target audience? Obviously, if you look around the room, it's not. I wouldn't say there's an older generation here. It's quite a millennial generation. I want to put a tag on it. But if you look now, some of the type of firms are actually targeting the school leavers, the 10 to 11-year-olds through their families, and they can get wise with your money kind of strategy. Where kids are on Instagram or Facebook, and then they'll be sharing, oh look, I'm saving my pocket money. Like if I was a dad and I had some money to chip, I wanted to send my pocket money to one of my kids, it'd be like, oh yeah, just chip it across.
Junior ISAs, I think that's somewhere on the roadmap. About a lot of things to do before.
Yeah. I think so our proposition for the last couple of years has obviously positioned ourselves towards a millennial audience, right? So the automatic savings and the product itself, tone of voice, is very much obviously a millennial product. It is very much on our roadmap, and Shiv's going to be talking about today, the FSCS product and savings marketplace, and that will enable us, and that the purpose of that is very much to open ourselves up to a bigger market. Obviously, savings is traditionally an older person's market, obviously. So we want to own the millennial relationship with automatic savings and amazing features, but then definitely savings marketplace and savings marketplace.
Can I just add to that? I think there is a distinction between savings and saving, right? So ChipX is really effective in enabling people to saving, rather than saving accounts traditionally have been focused towards people with savings. And that's
It's all in the S.
I'm just a representative of the older generation here. But you're trying to grow the brand. Why did you change the logo?
Why did we?
Yeah.
Good question. Well, kind of fit a little bit in with the generation thing. We want to mature. We rolled out 2.0. The full rollout 2.0 was in the spring this year. Now it's a complete rebuild and rollout of the app and redesign of the app. The interface before was fine, but it was a little immature, and then it was a smiley face, which probably isn't the most original thing. Right? The logo there. Technically, what it represents is it represents the spending curve of a normal month. So you get paid, and then you spend your money in a month. So we wanted to kind of build a logo that designed represented the kind of the peaks of your finances and the troughs of your finances. The idea is ChipX does help you, no matter if you are getting paid, you can save a bit more, or if you're in your overdraft, ChipX can help you save a bit more as well. So the original logo was just a smiley face. We wanted something that represented kind of more the mission we're on, but also kind of represented the maturity and us developing the product to go forwards, and also represented 2.0. It was a huge amount of work, and everyone here is very proud of it, and we kind of wanted a rebrand to represent that new app going forwards. But hopefully it won't happen again.
Unless you get to 3.0.
Exactly. But even then, it'll take a lot to show you to change the logo. Any other questions? Yeah, sure.
This is going to sound a bit odd, but a lot of ChipX are very good at this kind of quiet in the background, so you save without feeling it.
Yep.
But the viral growth, you have to know that you need to be notified that you need to share it.
Yep.
So how do you balance those two sides? So not being visible and not being visible.
Yeah. Really, really good question, and totally something, a challenge we're trying to face. From a business model perspective, we always wanted, everyone's phone has hundreds of apps. I'm sure you're agreeing, everyone's trying to compete in attention, and we wanted to create a product. So really, that really did sit in the background, as you say, and kind of work behind it and work without you having to do much at all. And yes, the viral impact of that obviously relies on good customer engagement. I think, to be perfectly honest, we want to create an automatic process which is so fantastic. You do just genuinely trust Chip and trust it in the background, and with that trust will become advocacy. And once you really do trust the product, trust what it's about, then you should be able to talk to your friends about it and become an advocate. Yeah, it's a very good point. I think it is something we're trying to come to terms with, is how we sit in the background and not intrusive, and own that space, not being intrusive, but also get people's trust and get people's engagement enough to tell your mates about the pub.
Just one more quick question. Sorry. With the goals, would you be launching shared goals so you can actually link different people's accounts into the same goal? Because that would be a way of doing a viral thing. So you can holiday, everyone can start contributing to the same goal, and that would share it amongst the people.
Would you like a job, sir?
So I'm not working too heavily on the product team, but I'm sure they'll be able to answer questions about that.
Squad Goals has
but yeah, exactly. The squad, we're releasing a feature hopefully in the next couple of months called Squad Goals, which allows people to save with each other very easily. Exactly like that. I think there's question marks, and we're trying to come to terms with how we make that as simple as process as possible, but clear in where the money sits and the interface around that. And we also want to create the ability to kind of share your goal online as much as possible. I think we want to get to a stage where people see someone else's goal and that's a good idea for a goal, and they add that to my chip, or share a goal on a WhatsApp conversation and then add it to their chip, and make that a more collaborative process as well. Because we're actually working on a website at the moment called whatdowesavefore.com, and it lists all 50,000 goals that people have created in the chip. And the first 50,000 people created in the chip. Some of them are amazing. Goals are completely mind-blowing, and we want to kind of create that ability that you can see a goal that's fantastic and add it to your own chip, and then make saving more kind of curated, more collaborative like that as well. So that's something we're working.
With regards to the PR that you had, how much of that is proactive versus stuff that's just passively coming?
Yeah, good question. So initially when we launched, we did first 2 or 3 months, which was very proactive, and that kind of got us initial big wins, like the BBC, TechCrunch, the Guardian also came in here. That was a really long piece in the Guardian, which was great. The App Store was again completely proactive. We also worked with a PR agency for I think about half of 2017 and about half of 2018, and they were obviously very proactive. No, that was our creative agency, right? So our PR agency was called Hello PR, and they work with fintech company. Right now we're not. We've actually paused our PR agency, but we're looking to ramp up proactiveness as well. I think the good thing about PR is, as I said, you can be very proactive on it for 3 months and put real strategy together, and then you can just pause it, and then the articles keep coming through, which is quite nice, and that all comes from back from the work. More questions? I think we'll probably go on to the next talk. Oh yeah, sorry, go on. No, it's cool.
I don't know if you have visibility into this, but approximately what percent of the people who recommend it to a friend actually get a sign from that friend? Like how many people sign up after a recommendation?
Yeah, so good question. So we make it very easy in the referral system to send an invite to a friend.
Yeah.
And we used to have a reactive button, so for every friend who tagged who wanted to invite, the button at the bottom that said share said you'll get 1%, you'll get 2%, you'll get 3%, you'll get 4% if the friends sign up. So we personally made it very easy to send an invite and very appealing to send an invite, and with that came a drop off of conversion, obviously, from that. So I don't have the metrics off the top of my head. But we spend a lot of time making it super easy and super obvious to send invites out, to the extent where people were sending kind of like 60, 70 invites out just in their phone book. But then we kind of pivoted our focus towards more conversion and encouraging the conversation around Chip and getting people talking about it, and that's kind of what our content and community teams are doing at the moment in sparking conversation and about the mission, about what we're trying to achieve. The crowdfund as well was fantastic. Kind of people who had invited their friends in the past talking about Chip again, and we've got 9,000 investors now, and some of our best referrers, people in the room. What was your second question?
My second question was, so there's not a lot of companies for automatic saving, but there are.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I think, or at least when I signed up, you were given at least like 1%.
Yeah.
But now obviously you are not doing anything. So what would encourage someone, apart from having like a fan community, to sign up to this instead of another companies? Because what's the differentiator? I think the people rave about it is a big one.
Yeah.
Where's the first thing I get asked is like, are they going to do anything?
Yeah. So actually, Shiv's going to talk about that now in his next talk. So yeah, we are releasing a savings account product and a savings marketplace, which Shiv's going to talk about. So I probably should just have an introduction to Shiv.
So just to add to that point, one of the tools we use to drive user growth is referrals, and with the crowdfunding investor users. So I've got some metrics. I think investors are about 5 times more likely to refer a successful friend or a friend that wants to refer signs up to non-user users. That's because it's more about getting value from the product, but also getting value or a sense of achievement in the sense that you have shares or you have a stake, that piece of the company. So the focus on my talk is on marketplace. So hi, I'm Shiv. I lead one of the product teams here. I've been in fintech for a number of years. So marketplaces are important now. Some of the biggest ones, Airbnb, connect hosts and guests. Uber, for example, connects drivers and people that need to get somewhere. So we at Chip believe that marketplaces are going to be important going forward. About a year and a half ago, we had a look at our existing current Chip user base back then, and we essentially identified 2 cohorts of users. We had users with funds in their Chip account, and they're kind of using the funds to build up a savings pot, a few £1,000s, perhaps up to the £10,000 limit. And then on the other hand, we found users that are actively using their bank overdraft. They have a steady income, but they have been in a situation where they've gone into their overdraft. They stay most of the month in their overdraft until payday, in which case they go back again to a few pounds above zero, and then the next month the cycle repeats, and it's been going on for a while. So we've identified those 2 cohorts of users, and we thought, okay, what can we do? What type of product can we build to satisfy these 2 users? And the peer-to-peer marketplace was one of the ideas. We explored this product and decided that actually it would be great if some Chip users who have money can lend to another Chip user that need funds for a purpose, specifically to pay off a bank loan. That's kind of what triggered the product build. We've gone through a very long, complicated regulatory process to get there. I think we spent about 12 months trying to get through various regulatory hurdles. We as a company had to grow. So one of the reasons for changing the logo, for example, is we were a cool, perhaps slightly mature app back then. Now we had to grow up. We had one of the most successful crowdfunds. We're being compared with Monzo, with Starlink, Revolut. We had to be one of the good guys. So we had to grow up. As part of that, we had to go through a regulatory process. So we, as today, have 2 additional permissions. The first one is a permission to operate an electronic platform in relation to lending. It's a very convoluted way of saying we can now do peer-to-peer loans. So what this means is a Chip user can lend money to another. We've kind of branded this. The word ChipX gets thrown out a lot. But essentially, it's a combination of 2 different products targeted at 2 field classes. So So we have Smart Credit, which is a loan that we offer to chip users. So chip users that we have seen transaction data have been using the bank overdraft and are paying very expensive interest rates. We can offer them a product whereby they can use the cost of their debt, and it's funded entirely by the community of chip investors or chip users that have that. We as a company are a pure platform operator. We don't participate in the investment. We only facilitate that transaction. And pricing for Smart Credit, we're going at 14.4%, which puts us as the cheapest alternative in the market, except for First Direct, who have a very complicated structure. So we're right there. Just to compare, the HBOS group, Halifax, Bank of Scotland, and Lloyds, they top the market at 62.5%. Those who did a bank with Nationwide this week, you'll find out that they've increased the overdraft rates to 40%. They've doubled this week due to changes in regulations. So we're going to the market with one of the cheapest prices. And we believe that there is a demand for this. There's a need within our existing user base for these two products. Now, this is obviously if you're an investor, most of you are, it's a capital at risk product, and we understand that most investors may not be, may prefer perhaps a more safer option. So we are exploring different products that we're looking to launch. One of that is an FSCS protection account. Had a lot of interest from investors and chip users to start offering some form of FSCS protection on the chip savings. So what we're looking to do very soon is have a marketplace, we call it a returns marketplace, where we will have a whole range of products that cater for capital at risk and pure savings. We're going to partner with various third parties, offer deposit products, whether you want an easy access account to store your money, or perhaps if you have a goal for a holiday in 6 months and you want to lock away your funds for 6 months, then it's going to be a notice account where you can earn a higher interest rate and potentially even some capital at risk ISAs, maybe finance ISAs, and life services. So that's kind of where we think the company will evolve. Again, there are a few other players in the market. We're not the only ones. Monzo, Starling, they've got great marketplaces. Raising focus purely on building savings. Circular Rate Setter, Octopus, they focus on capital at risk here. And Plum, so that's kind of where we see us evolving as a company in terms of satisfying the needs or the demands of the customer. We're helping users that are not into saving to start getting into the habit of building a savings pot. The people that have savings, you build up a savings pot, you have the option to either invest those funds deposit those funds into a bank account, earn a good interest rate, or invest those funds into capital at risk products, earn potentially a higher rate of return. Obviously, happens. Yeah, I think that's about it. Happy to take any questions you may have.
On your peer-to-peer lending, is it one-to-one or many-to-many? So I'm investing my pound. Is it going directly to one investor? So there's the risk that if they default, I lose my whole pound, or is it spread amongst a number of?
Correct. So we have 3 different types of investors. If you want to participate in peer-to-peer lending, we have what we call high net worth. We have sophisticated, and we have everyday investors. So all investments is in units of £10. So if a borrower comes up and says, I want to borrow £1,000, it's actually split into 100 different parts, and each lender invests £10. Now, if you're a sophisticated investor, you may have done this before, or you may have either invested in Chip as a company or other platform companies. You may have an account with Circular Rate Setter. You know what peer-to-peer lending is. You can increase that limit from £10 to £100. You can choose to invest up to £100. So all loans are diversified to reduce the risk. Any questions? That's good. Gerard, our CCO, coming up next.
So I'm here as part of our diversity effort. I'm not a millennial, I have no hair, and I'm leading on the least interesting topic as well, so that's everybody else's interesting topic, so I've got open banking and PSD2. But it is important. Like you can definitely see that I'm not a millennial there. So I'm Chief Compliance Officer. I help support the company in understanding what the right thing to do is and helping us do it, and making applications to regulators and to other parties. Keep contact there. I worked funding start 4 years there. They were a unicorn when I left them. Since I left, they're not doing so well. And I am actually a gamekeeper turned coacher. So I did work with the regulator for 4 years before I moved into fintech. And I tell you, things at the regulator were much more black and white than they are outside of the real world. So I'm going to talk to you about my role. I've already spoken about that. So I'm going to speak about open banking and PSD2. Hands up if anyone's heard about either of those phrases. Everybody really excited about those. You guys can do. So open banking is an initiative started by the CMA. I think you'll find out about open banking PSD2 because there are a lot of three-letter acronyms. CMA is the Competition and Markets Authority. I don't think they exist anymore. But what they found was that there was very poor competition for customers, and one of the reasons they found was poor competition in the retail banking market is that customers weren't really able to shop around. They didn't really. One of the reasons they weren't able to shop around is they didn't actually know the value of their own data, the value of the transactions. Banks held it like this and didn't let anybody have it. It's our data. And what open banking has done is allow people to share their data securely, and that there's real value in that data. So ChipX is one of the first companies out there to really start mining that data and providing services to companies based on that data. So it really enables people to do new things with their data. So it's my data, I can take it somewhere else, I can share it with anybody anybody that I want, and I can do that securely. And what happens, I don't know what your views are on Brexit, but generally what the UK does in financial services, the European Union follows, because London has been the pioneer in good financial regulation, notwithstanding RBS and all of that explosion, but we do things quite well and we are the hub for innovation. So therefore, I've gone too far. PSD2, here we go. So the Europeans thought actually we should do some of that. We should allow customers across the European Union to get access to their own data. And there are some other things here around protecting. Hi guys, find a chair. You've arrived for the best pieces, the compliance piece and the Payment Services Directive. Come on in, please, couple seats here. So Payment Services Directive, so it's a piece of legislation applicable right across the European Economic Area, which applicable to anyone in financial services. And one thing it does is kind of open banking right across the European Union, and hence now it's in force already and will become increasingly in force in September. There's some new deadlines. The other thing that it'll do will better protect customers when they're making payments online. There's still some debates about whether that's a better thing for the banks rather than actually the customers, and whether many in the industry would be ready for that deadline in September. But so I think this here, strong customer authentication, SCA, as I said before, everything is three-letter acronyms. That protects customers. So it's likely if you're chip saver, that when you go to set up a new payment in September, your bank will ask you to verify that you've actually set up this payment. They might send you a one-time password into the system. We're hoping that shouldn't affect our customers too much because it'll be happening elsewhere. The other piece that's happening is that banks now have to create APIs which allow third-party payment providers like ourselves better access to our customers' data. The flip side, and there's always a flip side, is that the banks can turn off screen scraping, which is what companies like Chip and others have been using for years. It's very basic, but it's very effective. And so in September, banks will turn off screen scraping. I'm going to go on to the last slide, which talks about opportunities from these changes. So customers will understand that data is valuable. You guys understand your data is valuable, but not everybody does. And when people start to get more offers for more innovative products, that they'll really start to engage more with their own data, and they'll be open to sharing their data, hitting the button when they're on their smartphone, and allowing companies like Chip to provide them new services. More competition, so it won't just be Chip. There'll be other providers coming into the market and offering cool new products. A wider public acceptance will drive people to act like Chip. So we're betting that we will be here with a great product, and that people come September will say, actually, you know what, I will take a chance, and I will. It's less of a chance now, it's less of a risk, it's more accepted. We'll download the Chip app. So we want to be ready for that. And through the banking APIs, well, there's potentially some further work for us to do. We'd rather be doing kind of on front end stuff for people. The access is better, more secure, cleaner. So I thought I would keep mine nice and short. Questions? That was a very quick run through Payment Service Directive and OpenBanking, but I thought it's warm in here. It's a Wednesday night. I don't want to kill anybody.
I actually have a question, if you don't mind. Just by show of hands, who has heard of PSD2 or has heard of OpenBanking prior to Gerard's talk? Okay, so people in general are familiar with it. It's not. Yeah. We're not OpenBanking. And by show of hands, number of people aware that 14th of September is a deadline where something changes. Okay.
Can I ask a question as a newcomer? As students usually don't like to ask any questions, so I can. But I have a good understanding how many banks are actually supporting this API approach. Because my understanding is that they're not too good in it yet, so it might be that they're closing down the screen scraping, but don't offer proper APIs anyway.
Yeah, so your question is how many of the big banks are ready to offer the APIs. Our understanding is that about 4 of the big CMA, of the 9 big banks at this point are ready. Their definition of ready and everybody else's definition are very, very different. However, they have big lobbying teams, and they can tell the regulators and the European Commission that everything's fine. I think to see here. Things are a little bit uncertain about what's actually going to happen in September, whether screen scraping will be completely shut down on 14th of September. We're hoping it won't be, because there's some rich data that we still get through screen scraping. We anticipate it's likely all of the big 9 will be ready in some regard, but I think there will be probably some very close to the wire releases. Any other questions? Sorry, I'll come to you after.
Do you have an API as well? So it's like you're using the OpenBanking, but you also have one to
Yes. The answer is yes.
So at the moment, where's Paul? Who are we with at the moment? So we have an OAuth API which other fintechs can use to see Chip's data if they want to add it into their products. So currently Yolt have just built it into there, so if anyone uses Yolt, it's basically a financial dashboard. In a similar vein, Money Dashboard, Chip savers can see their Chip savings in Money Dashboard reflected. Also goals as well in there. And we're also working with a company called Bud who are building sort of an end-to-end product with lots of fintechs built in, with lots of APIs and lots of
stuff there. Another one, Emma, and Emma, another friend in the market who who we've worked with. So, but yeah.
Skyscanner as well.
Skyscanner API, that's different, that's their API, they have a travel API which we can pull. Don't quiz me too much on APIs, I'm not very technical, I just know that we have one and it is being used by other fintechs.
Research question.
Is it possible to launder money through your application?
Are you asking for a friend, sir, or?
Okay, to be more serious actually, like what are you doing to prevent that?
So we take money laundering very seriously. Of course, I would say that. In my last role, I was the money laundering reporting officer at Funding Circle, and that company, that platform was much more at risk of money laundering than ChipX is. Historically, until very recently, we had a very closed loop system, which is very low risk. So you could see people. So we have open banking access to people's accounts. We verified. Started off with understanding who people are, so we do electronic KYC, so doing independent verification that person exists. Now we're moving to on FIDO, where we'll be doing some selfie and ID authentication, which is a really great level of authentication. So once you've identified someone, your risk of money laundering really reduces because people really don't want their actual identity. When they want to launder money, they want to use somebody else's. But people still launder money in their own name, but we have access to the data, so we can actually see the transactions. We see the transactions in your account. We see it's in the debit card. We have kind of broken that a little bit. We're taking our risk profile is changing a bit, so we're keeping that under review. So we don't take any cash. We don't have any non-UK residents. We're not doing any high risk products. Our risk profile is low. It's something we're vigilant. But what's your name, sir? I'll just check out your I'll just check out your account just to make sure that's okay. Yep.
Probably everybody within a few miles of here knows about PSD2 and open banking, but I have not seen anything in the press to make the public aware that things are changing.
Yeah.
Is anything,
So it's a good question. We are a member of a trade association for third-party payment providers called FData, and one of their concerns, we all share a similar concern. It is very niche, kind of understanding of PSD2 and the implication for anyone who does online payments come September that this strong customer authentication is going to come in. Really, it's likely that kind of the newspaper, the media will pick something up and but there's no real proactive campaign. It's a piece of European legislation. I don't think Boris Johnson and his friends are going to start publicising this. Maybe they would, because it might have some negative consequences. We will do what we can. We haven't agreed this with Alex, but maybe we should be blogging about this with our customers, getting them ready for the implication. But as I said before, kind of deadlines are a little bit uncertain. There is still some capacity for people to say, hold on, September's undoable. Let's push it back to Christmas, and then after Christmas.
Does anybody think it's going to decrease conversion on merchant side?
If it gets introduced in the way that it is planned to, without merchants being ready, banks and issuers being ready, it will. So if you're going on ASOS and every time you make a purchase, you have to go onto your bank's website or wait for a one-time password, that conversion will drop. All the retailers, every online merchant wants few, they want payments like that. They don't want people to have to go to their banks. So it could affect us as well. So we're hoping that we can not be as badly affected. I wasn't expecting so many questions on compliance.
Legally 60.
I was expecting to get up and get down. Another question.
Yeah, that's a heavily underestimated impact. Open banking is cool and fun, but it's actually the stronger customer authentication, which is really secure, which is in most countries it's like complete crap that you need to go through as well. Yeah. In terms of your product, does it set up new challenges for you also that you need to figure out how to not bypass, but do it in a clever way that people wouldn't suffer too much.
Yeah, we're looking at that.
Big challenge for most of the smart providers.
Last question, maybe.
Anyone. We'll be here after as well. Question.
What would you say is the biggest risk for Chip in terms of open banking?
That's a good question. Biggest risk. Every risk is also an opportunity, and I'd say the banks just getting their own act together and actually doing what we do that's slightly with their much bigger customer base. But that is a risk, but I think, from what I know of the management team and the product developers here, we're just going to iterate and release better products faster than they will. So I think it's having that access to data. So HSBC will be opening up their data to everybody else, but they'll also be able to access their customers' data at NatWest and Barclays, so they'll have that data as well. But they do everything much slower than we do. They don't have any personality generally, so we can do that way.
Next.
Cool. Samy. Yes, it's me. Yeah. Hi. So I'm the only thing getting in between you guys and Adam showing off some really cool UI stuff. So I'm going to make this quick. I'm going to talk about 3 things today. First of all, I'm going to talk about my baby, my life and soul, which is the Scrum process that we do here at Chip. I'm going to talk about our highly talented engineering team. Second and third, I'm going to talk about how we prioritize our backlog, how we decide what features and what bugs we're going to release into production here at Chip. So, getting straight into it, you don't need to see my face. Right, so a little bit about me. My background is as a consultant. I've worked at IBM for a number of years. I was assigned to the financial services, so I know this industry quite well. I've worked on successful projects such as account originations, OpenBanking, which we were just talking about, GDPR, everyday banking and dormant accounts. As a Scrum Master, and I could safely say that one of the reasons why these projects went so well is because we worked in an agile fashion, because we worked in Scrum. I think studies have shown, over 500 different studies, that you have a 10% more chance of failing a project if you work in waterfall. Scrum increases your success percentage by about 20% of meeting every single requirement, and about 15% of meeting some but not all, which is most projects. So let me sum up Scrum really quickly. So for those who don't know what Scrum Master is, I'm going to get into that. But what is Scrum? What is the process that Chip work in? So it's an agile framework that focuses on delivering business value incrementally. So we work in these things called sprints. Every sprint runs over 2 weeks here at Chip. The team decides what they can commit to. Every sprint, we have 2 Scrum teams here at Chip, which I'm going to get into later. Each team will commit to a certain number of tasks or a specific feature which has been prioritized by the business, and will promise essentially to deliver that in the next 2 weeks. So that's where we want to get to. We've got a process now. We've empowered our developers enough to be able to get to that stage where we're able to continuously deliver products. So it's all about delivering business value incrementally. Here at Chip, it's every 2 weeks. It's all about teams, not individuals. So teams are accountable for their successes, and as much as I hate this word, failures, we never blame individuals. We never point at someone and say, your performance has been bad. We look at a team. And what that does is it encourages teams to work together, and if someone is stuck, everyone looks at an issue and helps. The reason why I don't like to call them failures is if a footballer takes a shot at a goal and misses, it's not called a failed goal, it's called an attempted shot, right? So that's how we like to see as things. If we fail in a sprint, we call it an attempt to succeed, and we learn from it. I'm going to get into that a little bit more later as to how we learn from our failures and how we get better in Scrum. Which brings me nicely onto my next point: encourages constant reflection and growth. I'm not going to talk too much about this. I'm going to talk about it later on in the next slide. it allows teams to be more responsive to change. So previously, one of the main reasons why projects failed is because they work in a wonderful fashion. And as humans, we are naturally wired to work in this way. We have a plan. A CEO has an idea. We plan this as perfectly as we can for a couple of months and show the CEO, I have the perfect plan for you. This is how we're going to execute it. And then we get to the design stage, build, test. By the time we're in test for such a huge project, it's probably 18 months, a year down the line. The business has changed, the industry's changed, the requirements are no longer relevant at all, and if there's one slight problem in the requirements, the whole project goes down. I've seen this happen quite a few times at older companies that have worked in waterfall method. I think I've been in 3 projects that were cancelled, and all of them, every single one, worked in waterfall. And we're talking millions of pounds wasted in the industry, and this is an everyday story, so you hear about this all the time in the industry. So with us, if something isn't going well, because we work in 2-week sprints, okay, we've only wasted 2 weeks of our lives. That's it, we can pivot quite easily. We can listen to our users and say, hear what they're saying. If we think that something is important, but for 2 weeks users have been screaming about, saves aren't working, all right, fine, in 2 weeks, we'll pivot to saves. And it also works well with DevOps and continuous integration and continuous deployment. So essentially, where we want to get in a couple of years' time is to be a Netflix which deploys every couple of seconds in a day, a Facebook which deploys to production every couple of days, or Amazon, I think it's every 12 minutes deploy a feature or a bug to production. Scrum is the vehicle to get to that. So talking about other companies, who is Scrum used by? I should have called this slide, how many logos can I fit on a page? But basically every successful company that you've heard of has used Scrum. I think the French president called them Gaffer. Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple all use Scrum. I didn't put Apple up here because they haven't come out openly and said we use Scrum. But they all do, and it's all worked very successfully. This process does work, it's just about how well it's implemented. So Scrum on a page, I've talked about it for a bit. What is it? So essentially how Scrum works is you build up a product backlog. You speak to your users, you speak to your stakeholders, your investors. What do people want? What do people who actually use the app or have an interest in the app want the developers to build? We build a product backlog over that. We refine it with the team. We make sure that the product backlog, first of all, makes sense from a technical point of view, that we've covered every aspect of a feature. And that happens way before we start a sprint. So just to remind you, a sprint is every 2 weeks here at Chip. At the beginning of those 2 weeks, we have a sprint planning session, and that's where we decide, based off the priority that the product owner sets. The product owner can be anyone really, anyone who works in the business, whether it's the CEO, the CMO, whoever. Based on the priority, we decide that we can commit to a certain feature. For example, we want to change our saves architecture. The business has decided that that's the priority for the next 2 weeks. Okay, fine, we commit to that, we'll do it. So we decide in sprint planning, we'll take this feature in. And then from that, it's probably going to be a combination of 20 different stories, which go into the sprint backlog. And every Wednesday is the start of our sprints. And we have a complete sprint backlog with everything to do for the next 2 weeks. So engineers are empowered here at Chip. We have very trustworthy, very highly skilled engineers here at Chip. They're empowered to take whatever they want from the sprint backlog. They take whatever they feel like they could work on for the next couple of days, or whatever they feel like they want to work on for the next couple of days. Start working on it, and with Scrum, it's all about transparency. We want to be very open and transparent with the business and other members of the team. We have a daily stand-up every 24 hours where anyone is invited in Chip. So anyone can come along and see how the team is doing. There's nowhere to hide because an update is given every single day, and that's how we start our day mainly. So we do that throughout the 2 weeks. We've moved things from, I don't know if anyone's seen, I've got a sprint backlog later on, so I'll show you what that looks like. But everything goes from to do to done, hopefully, in the 2 weeks. And at the end of those 2 weeks, we have a sprint review where we demonstrate what we've built in those 2 weeks and the goal is to make weeks. We want to get to a stage where we have a brand new feature for our users. And this is a process that has been proven time and time again. It does work, and it does allow you to get to a stage where, you know what, we don't need to wait for the end of the 2 weeks to go to production. We can do that now. We're ready. And once a team becomes more mature, Scrum, I've been here for about a couple of months, essentially where we will get to a stage where we're able to deploy every couple of days. And not to forget, at the end, once we've had our sprint review and once we've demonstrated, we have our sprint retrospective. What went well, what didn't, the sprint, what can we do better? And this allows the team to continuously improve. You're open to criticize the process, open to criticize the planning of the feature, because who knows best? It's probably the people who are building it, right? They probably know where the issues reside in a company. And that's why Scrum is such a proven method for delivering features. So just to introduce our two engineering teams, I don't know if any of you have seen that whiteboard that we have at the back. All of our microservices have a Game of Thrones title. Our architect here was a big fan of Game of Thrones, so we carried on that theme with our teams. I've never seen Game of Thrones myself, but I believe there are two teams fighting each other. So we've got the living team and we've got the dead team, both of which are full stack teams, so they can deliver a feature from front end to back end to QA. So we've got Adam, who you're going to hear from later on, an iOS developer. We've got Martin, our Android developer, who's not around. We've got Andy, aka Labs, who's one of our back-end engineers based in Riga. Andrew, and then we've got Andy here. Our other back-end engineers.
The only guy who forgot his t-shirt in Riga.
I think his plan was actually to pretend to be an investor and just
I was trying to blend in.
It didn't work. We've got Peter and Neil, two contract back-end developers, and we've got Shivani, our QA engineer in the living team. Moving on to the dead team, we've got Jack, our iOS developer. We've got Lucas, who's on holiday at the moment. We've got Tommy, our QA engineer, who's somewhere around here. We're trying to hire another Android dev, so at the moment, a lot of stress on our Android product. Martin is basically holding down.
He's working to get some deals.
He's holding down the Android port on his own, and we've got Ashley, another back-end developer. We've got a couple of people working cross-functional at the moment, so we've got our architects, Alan Yar. We've got someone working on the documentation of all of our services. In the early days of Chip, things were all about delivering quick. We didn't really document things. We didn't have time to, right? We just needed to deliver. We needed to get our user base up. So we're going back now and documenting everything so that we can scale the team quicker. We can hire more engineers who won't just be twiddling their thumbs when they join. They will have documentation to read. And then we've got myself as what a Scrum Master does is he ensures that the Scrum process is followed properly, essentially. So that's my job, I suppose, to protect the team from committing to too much and to make sure that Scrum is managed properly. So quickly going to power through these. So how do we manage the product backlog here at Chip? So we've got product owners, and the good thing about the way we work, usually most companies have one specified product owner, and that product owner might come from an operations background or a technical background, and what that causes is a very unconscious bias as to what they want to take into the sprint. If our product owner is an architect, he's probably going to work on just technical debt. Let's make the engineering team work as fast as they can. Luckily with us, we have quite a few product owners. We've got a product owner from marketing, from operations, customer success, we see as our stakeholders as well. And all of those guys have a say as to what we're going to take in, what is the highest priority things that we need to take into the next sprint. So we have a session, we catch up every week pretty much, and we decide based on the number of users it affects, the demand of the feature, research done as to what to take into next sprint. We decide that together as a team, and then essentially the team commits to however much they can on a sprint, and this is what a Scrum board would essentially look like. So we've got a to-do column in development over here, and then testing, and then done. These are the foundations of a Scrum board. You might introduce a new column like blocked, which is really good to see what is blocking our engineers from delivering their features. And yeah, so every day we catch up, and for the sake of transparency, we move tickets across from to-do to in development, so everyone in the company knows what our engineering team is working on. And once we've delivered everything in the sprint, hopefully, our burn down chart should look like this blue graph. And what this does is we essentially present this back to the business at the end of the 2 weeks. This is how we performed over the next 2 weeks. And it's, like I say, it's very difficult to hide in Scrum. If there's an issue, if things aren't being delivered, they will get pointed out, the business will know. And it allows us to address it quicker, right?
Sorry, I can't help with that yet.
The worst hacker ever.
So essentially what we want at Chip is we want both of our Scrum teams, the living and the dead, to be here underneath the guideline and ahead of schedule, and that's what we're working towards now. So sorry, this was a very short presentation. If you have any questions, I'm going to be around, I'm going to be having drinks, so please just come and give me a shout. But any questions now? Yeah.
I have one actually.
Oh yeah.
So do you have like a specific person for bugs, or like every week there's some guy from the team actually deals with that?
That's a very good question. So we do it on a case-by-case basis, essentially. If we have a lot of bugs building up from a specific feature, we may assign someone full-time for one sprint just to work on bugs. So they won't take in anything else, they'll be our bug man for that sprint. And it's usually the people that know best about the feature that is causing those bugs. So just as an example, to be completely open with you guys, we released a new saves feature which kind of changed the architecture of how our saves work. And the guys that did that, that worked on the back-end side of things were in Riga. So every now and then we place one of the Riga guys, whether it's Andy or Labs, full-time on fixing bugs that came out of our new saves feature, because they know it best, right? So who's better than them to work on those bugs, essentially? So,
yeah.
Alright, I guess that leaves me. Yeah. So, evening everyone.
Evening.
So I'm the last talk tonight. It's really warm here and some nice cold drinks upstairs, so I'm going to try and keep this short but interesting. My name's Adam and I look after the front end engineering here at Chip. I am part of the millennial generation that are notoriously bad at saving, and that's what interested me originally when I discovered Chip and I spoke to Simon and Alex for the first time. Chip's are products that can help thousands and maybe millions of people feel good about their money and make the goals happen. And I'm really excited to be pushing the pixels around the screen that let people do that. Today I'm going to give you an introduction into the world of apps at Chip. I'm going to introduce our team. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the technology that we use on the front end. And I'm going to run through some of the methods that we've used to improve our shipping rate and get features into the hands of our customers quicker than we have done previously. And finally, I'm really excited to be able to share with you some of the things that we're working on and looking to release in the last half of 2019. Right, on to the team. Of course, the engineering team's a lot bigger than this. Sam's gone through it already. There's a much higher ratio of back-end engineers. With a complex system like Chip, they do most of the heavy lifting. We've also got 2 QA engineers, and of course Samy you just met, running the Chip. I've already introduced myself. I joined in February from Expedia. I've got an iOS background. It's very like LinkedIn looking man over here. is Martin's. He's joined us from Latvia today and is a really good Android engineer who single-handedly wrote the code for Chip 2.0. Jack has just started from the app business. Really excited to have him on board to see what he can do. So far it's looking good. And this slot here, yeah, we're looking for an Android dev in Riga. So if anyone knows any Riga-based Android devs. A bit about the technology. So Chip was built from the ground up with the latest technologies offered by both platforms. It's a reasonably small app, which means we can change and rapidly evolve in the and adapt to the rapidly evolving mobile ecosystem. For the technologists amongst us, the apps are 100% native, so that's Swift 5.1 in iOS and fully Kotlin in Android. And we use a framework called RX in both apps, which is a functional reactive framework that we can use to bind our UI to like immutable data sequences. I'm sure we'll all remember Chip 2.0 and the pains we had getting that out. It took us quite a long time. It was slow and painful. That's because the team was at the time very small. We were growing. We just raised the money with the crowdfund. There weren't really any processes in place. So the first half of this year, we've sort of put in some systems to kind of sort of iterate and ship quicker than we have done previously. And these systems are known as continuous integration and delivery, and I'll come on to that a little bit further in our example. That ties in really well with what Samy's been saying about the agile methodology. We hope to get into a place where we can match the likes of Revolut and Emma, who ship frequently. To show you a sort of day in the life of a developer and the workflow, I'm going to go through a ticket from start to completion. So the Agile sprint has just started. I picked up a ticket and I've been asked to deliver an awesome feature. So this is Jira. I've got my really good acceptance criteria here, and I'm ready to pick that up. So I open my code editor and delivered it. This is Xcode, it's what we use to build iOS apps, and it's where we spend most of our time. Build the feature to spec, can now create what's known as a pull request, and that's a request to merge this new feature into the kind of releasable branch of work. We can't merge that until it's been peer reviewed by one of the members of the team as well. And that is actually through a webhook. Waite kicked off our continuous integration system, which is basically automating builds of the mobile apps. We use a service called Bitrise to automate builds in the cloud. So what that's doing is checking out this feature, building the code, running automated tests to make sure it's all okay in line with our suite, running snapshot tests on all different devices to make sure the UI renders correctly on different devices, and it also delivers a link to our Slack. We've got a little bot there that our QA testers can pick up and test the latest features. Once we're ready and happy to release all the acceptance criteria, the QAs are happy, we can kick off a release branch which will do a similar sort of thing in the background, but this time instead of delivering to Slack, it will put it onto App Store and the Play Store on Google. And we're hoping this whole system is going to, alongside Agile, is going to help us get features into our users' hands much quicker. And the last and final section today, I'm going to show you some of the features that we might be working on, or will be working on. Our product designer Liam has asked me to stress that these designs aren't quite final, so. First up, we have dark mode. So iOS 13 introduces dark mode system-wide, like it did in macOS last year. They had this like 5-minute presentation on it, with a big old video at the developer conference. All I'm going to say is it looks pretty nice. It's also a great opportunity to get featured by Apple, who like to showcase technologies, their latest technologies in the products they feature on the App Store. It's a good opportunity for us there. Next up, we've got a lot of improvements to the balance section. The community forum that we just set up, there's been a lot of feedback on there where people can't find some of the metrics like the bonus accrued and that kind of thing. So thinking of putting the balance as like a primary citizen in the tab bar and just having some new user experience around that. Also improved accounts.
most frequent queries in live chat are to do with sort of lost cards. You can't actually change your card right now. Just lack of knowing which bank's connected properly. We've got a lot of improvements on the UX around there. Also, we want to bring settings in line with the new user interfaces that we've developed for the new goals flow and the new onboarding and bank connect flows. So no more confusing avocados and more just want to buy a nice clean UI. This gent will be happy to know squad goals is on the radar. That's grid saving towards a common goal, a stag do, a holiday, or a party of some sort. See the marketing team are off to LA, and so far it's only Alex and Simon and Paul who's put up the bill. Let's get that together.
Come on, man.
And I'm sorry about the money laundering thing. It's not the most exciting stuff, but yeah, the next release is going to include a lot of sort of user interface around sort of knowing your customer, and that fits in line with financial regulations and anti-money laundering, and also ChipX. So we people who are who they say they are. And a couple more ideas that we've had, more internal to the apps team and more exciting, is sort of voice assistants. So I might just say, okay Google, what's my chip balance? Or hey Siri, I've got some chip in my team going to Vegas, something like that. Widgets, so swipe left on iOS, and I would say widgets, maybe some like digestible information about your chip balance and chip goals. Same on the Android and home widgets. Rich push notifications, so right now it's just like you've saved £7, congrats. We could put in some maybe a GIF or incorporate that with goals as well. And pipe dream is Apple Watch apps and other wearables. Yeah, thanks for listening, and here for questions.
How can your Latvian developers use the product?
They can.
Well, you can actually download it in Latvian App Store. Will that be it?
I mean, we have the source code, so we can build it ourselves.
So there's a different business actually.
Yeah,
we can't technically use, since we have to be in UK, but because we can simulate the whole experience with the fake banks and all that other stuff. It's not a problem.
You're asking a lot of concerning questions.
I'm actually from Estonia, so I just want to use it, but I can.
Well, if you
give me a call, we can set it up.
He's the money laundering guy.
You give me half.
Okay.
So I find Chip uses most of my mobile data. Is that going to change?
Yes, hopefully. That's something I've been looking into. I'm not quite sure why.
Because I tried the feature, there was a recommendation to turn off mobile data in your settings, but then I couldn't use, unless I was on Wi-Fi, I couldn't log in to it. Or it wouldn't refresh, so I just find it uses, it's the one app that uses most of my data.
We have seen that. We're looking into that. I'm not sure if
we have found the cause of that, and it's going into the next sprint, so within 2 weeks that will. It's only on iOS as well, so it's only.
Yeah, only on iOS. Yeah, it's on iOS.
That's a quote on that.
Yeah, that's right.
Regarding the data and all this cool stuff that you can do with data, like how far you are from prioritizing things like when I'm most likely to save money or waste money, or like when I'm vulnerable to some kind of risks, or is it somewhere far away, or is it also progressing?
So the OSs themselves learn a lot from different patterns in time. So if you're like every Monday morning you open up at a certain time to maybe check your balance for the week, you can kind of build that into our sort of user experience, or if you enter a certain area, and there's all these sort of exciting opportunities that you can do in that way. A lot is provided by the OS these days.
Are you able to see what people are doing, and say, for example, if it says saving for a new house or something, and then cross-selling products?
Yeah, we are actually doing like I think you might have missed the Skyscanner bit.
Oh.
So if people are saving for holidays, we might be able to take sort of think what we did these different things. yeah, we have got that sort of visibility on the types of things people are signing for.
If it's ambiguous, can you guess? Or is it only if it's like house or holiday? Like if it's like Vegas, baby, yeah, I know that that's like a holiday.
So Jason's jumping again. So next iteration, next iteration of goals, we're going to provide suggestions. So we're like, okay, what sort of goal are you looking for? So whether that be rainy day, holiday, pay off debt, and they'll select a kind of category, and then we can ask follow-up questions around that, and straight away get attacked. We can then lead on with that. Kind of in a month's time, as they're approaching completion of their goal, we can then suggest them potential avenues to go down to, integrate with them and interact with, find out as well. So yeah, yes, we will be able to. Currently no, but we will.
How are you finding? You mentioned about going back and documenting. How are you finding retro documenting and that tying in with kind of compliance and finding bugs and flaws? Sorry guys.
It's a great question, and one of the challenges that the person who's been assigned to documenting has found it's not codes that they particularly have written. It's code that's been around for a while, so it does take a while to investigate the code, but also it provides opportunity for them to find issues or suggest recommendation. But I suppose we won't know until they've gone through and actually documented everything that we need to see. Yeah, it's one of those wait and see moments.
How is that going to play into, if you're pushing towards continuous integration, how is that, surely they're just going to continually be doing catch up and never getting to the same point, right?
Not essentially, because I suppose, for example, bug fixes, things like that, they're documented in Jira, but they don't change the specification of the service. The specification of the service does what the service says what the service is intended to do. Bugs are things that deviated from that specification and are just fixing the code to align with our documentation. So not everything we work on requires documentation itself. Documentation, we can have very lean documentation. A lot of traditional companies tend to have very comprehensive documentation for every single service, and they found that holds them back. So it's a very good point. Since we don't have a template for documentation, now is the perfect time for us to say we're going to do the leanest documentation that we can, but it's still useful for Adam to have something over to Jack when he goes on holiday for a couple of weeks. So we only want to document what engineers need. We don't want to document for the sake of documenting, which is something that is going to require a cultural change, because I know naturally we're just going to start documenting. We just don't want to leave any road not mapped out, essentially. So it's a great question, and it's something that we will need to continuously tackle, I suppose.
It's worth mentioning as well, automated tests sort of document behaviors as well. So I think the improvements in our testing capabilities will sort of do that for us as well.
How do you guys see yourself in 3 years' time as the challenger neobanks that are coming up? Like they have their own savings. Some don't. Maybe your approach is actually to be like one of their partners, actually being down there. Because they saw like on your site, you'll be integrated with the big banks. So
we've actually now integrated with both.
Okay, I didn't actually understand. I understood what you said. It's going to be you more inside of their.
Yeah, I think if I can say it, the way I see it is OpenBanking should level the playing field, right? So if you go forward, let's say in 5 years' time, you shouldn't see a distinction between, let's say, a Lloyd's account and an N26 account starting, right? So then the customer will be able to pick and choose. Okay, I want to save automatically the chip. I want to use TransferWise for my foreign exchange. I want to use my current account. So you should get to a point where it's like where the customer, there shouldn't be that distinction, and there's this sort of choice, and then within that choice, Chip needs to own the saving space. we need to enable people to save, to make things happen with their money, rather than, let's say, a lot of the neobanks are focusing on how people spend their money day to day. We need to focus on enabling people to make things happen with their money in the medium or longer term. That's our simple distinction. Thank you, Adam. I know everyone's probably really desperate to get out here, and there's drinks and some fresh air upstairs.
Pizza upstairs as well.
And there's pizza upstairs as well. Just really quickly, by show of hands, just as a sort of mini survey for the team in the room. We're really interested to know. So just by show of hands, who came across Chip from another person telling them about it? Okay. Out of those people, who received an interest referral for signing up to Chip? Okay. So, and the other half of you would have just signed up to Chip because someone told you about it. Right. And then people who weren't told about Chip, who were told about it from another website or a listing site. Someone by show of hands. Okay. Just out of interest, money saving expert. Okay, so since we mixed some partnerships, how many people have created a goal inside their Chip account? How many people have created multiple goals, more than one goal? And allocating different savings to those goals? Okay. How many people manually save? Okay. How many people have more than 1% interest? Good to know. And out of the two options of what Chip should introduce first, one being multiple goals, what we call squad goals. So that's the ability to save with other people, group saving, save up towards things with people you know, or sort of group collections functionality. That, or releasing our as Shiv explained, our sort of iterated and advanced version of ChipX, where customers can deposit things into various different options and get returns on their savings. So option A being swap goals, option 2 being sort of deposit through ChipX. Option A, option 2, B. Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming.